Hmm. That super awkward moment when you forget to loop the intro music so it goes silent for a minute. What's going on, everybody? First thing I need you guys to do, Matt Desmond, what's up? Akeem, what's up? Wetbeard, what's up? Is let me know if you can hear me okay. You should be able to, but this is my first live stream of AM Hookah Season 4. Season 3. Sorry, what am I talking about? Is this Season 4? Oh, I can hear myself. We're golden. Are we in Season 4 right now? Oh my gosh, I'm losing my mind. I think we're in season. I don't know what season we're in. Anyway, today, very simple thing we're doing. We're going to be talking about a brand that we just had on the podcast on Monday. And that's going to be, well, it's kind of many brands. It's going to be Athmani, Nirvana Super Shisha, and Nirvana Eclipse. The one we're going to be talking about specifically today is going to be Nirvana Eclipse because it's the one that I had the most trouble getting to work, and it's also one of the most pleasing tobaccos I've had in a long time. As far as dark leaf goes, especially having Doha mixed in, which is something we found out about on Monday's podcast. There's no link right now, but after this is over, I'll make sure to add a link to that podcast if you guys missed it. We had the owner of all three brands over talking to us. Anyway, all I wanted to do today was take a few minutes, really break down how to pack it, show you guys what it looks like, and maybe smoke a little bit, and talk about some of the characteristics that this tobacco has that maybe some of your run-of-the-mill tobaccos do not have. You have to give me a second here so I can make sure that I'm getting any comments that are coming through, so I'm not ignoring them. We can hear your sexy voice. Haha. I hear you, Lord of Hookah. Haha. So we got Akeem, Muhammad Ferris. What's going on, buddy? Anyone I miss? Nope, and that's good. And, technical difficulties is going to be on our rotating schedule with Matt's Gamecast. We're still kind of looking at what exactly that looks like. But, so next week, for instance, next week we won't have any of it because of Hookah Expo Worldwide, which I'll talk a little bit more about when I have a chance to smoke. But right now, at the beginning of it, I have to race my coals because I want my coals to be, properly heated. So what we're going to do here is I should be able to unhide this, and then that should pop up right there. We're getting a little bougie today. We've got our, what am I doing? We have our stone. This is the Army Bowl that, for anyone who's wondering, it's number 6 of 25. That's not coming through very well. There it goes. The Hookah University Stone Bowl run. And that's what we're going to be packing it in today because it's relatively low capacity. It's aesthetically pleasing. And I wanted to be bougie. And I can because I work here. As far as what we're going to be packing, I think we're going to do mostly Andromeda, which is the mint that's offered in the Eclipse line. Foil. We all know how to pack tobacco. Here's the packaging for the Eclipse for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. It's really nice. I like how he kind of just puts a sticker on it, and all these are the same. I'd imagine since he does a lot of this himself, this is just easier, just to throw a sticker on it instead of printing 400 flavors, I think he said what he has across all of his different brands. That's a lot of different packages to have printed. Anyway, I think I'm going to do mostly Andromeda, but the mint is pretty strong, so I'd like to mix it with something. And I'm kind of tossed up between Dorado and Oberon. And Dorado's something we're going to be talking about and trying at the expo, so maybe I should do Dorado. But yeah, we'll do Dorado, because I am allowed to talk about it. So we'll do exactly that. So to give you an idea how much I like the flavor, this is how much I have left, which is plenty for this particular bowl, but I honestly wish we had more. So at this point, we need to do the thing where I get small and that gets big. Bang, bang, bam. Easy peasy. J-Rock, what's going on, man? Who else? Brandon, what's up? Wow, 8 people. I don't think we even advertised this episode. This is my trial of, okay, let's start to do this again after taking 2 months off. So I've lost my flow a little bit, but let's get rid of this piece of clothing. Voila, we have our tobacco, pack mat, thanks Bracken. The coals on the burner are going to be jumbo flats by our buddies over at Prestige. And we're going to do probably, I'm thinking 50-50 if I can get away with it. So we're going to start like this. Now, I'm going to give you a little disclaimer, a little bit of knowledge that maybe you did or didn't need. I like to use chopsticks for this stuff. It works very, very well. However, most people in the world, not in the world, but most people in America don't even know how to use chopsticks properly. And it includes myself, by the way. And then a lot of people will just pack with their hands, or even they'll just pack with an oyster fork. And I figured I'd go with the common denominator of everyone, most people, have hands. And I'll pack it with my hands. Let's start with the cut itself, since now we're here and we have a chance to really look at this tobacco in depth. I'm going to pull a little bit out and try to show it to you. So here we have the tobacco. And it's a little bit difficult. I don't really want to zoom in because that would involve touching my camera, and this is a webcam, so that wouldn't work too well. But it's kind of fine cut. It's not quite as fine as something like Lavu, if you guys remember that brand of tobacco, which is basically coffee grounds, but it's somewhere between Tangiers and that. I would say this is cut probably just a little bit thinner, if not right on par with Tangiers. It's hard to say because there's also Doha mixed in, which you can kind of, it's not going to translate in camera, but it looks a little bit different from the rest of the tobacco and coloration, so keep that in mind. And that's what we're looking at. It's fluffy. It's not super sticky. I mean, it does stick to your fingers, but that's because the pieces are so small, it's relatively easy to wash off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out a little bit more, and I'm actually going to do a mixed pack, which is something I don't do a lot over here on the AM Hookah Podcast, or AM Hookah Technical Difficulties, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. But I feel that this tobacco probably is going to work fairly well using that method. Let me see if I can see comments on this page. Haha. Kasim, Ron, what's going on, buddy? Who else? Streamlabs, you can fucking go home. Oh, you know what? Thank you. Give me a second. First of all, we got our buddy. What's his name? Muhammad Faris. Muhammad Faris, you caught me forgetting something. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to AM Hookah Technical Difficulties with Adrian Hunter 2019. You live in a state in America. If you don't, I don't know what the laws are, so I can't talk to you. But I am from America, meaning I get to be the dad of all Americans watching this right now that are under a certain age. Some states it's 18, some it's 21. If you don't know which state you're in, you're probably too young to be watching this podcast. But if you are not old enough to legally smoke tobacco wherever you're from, then you're not old enough to consume this content. Your mother's waiting for you. You have chores to do. Please go do those chores and get off of this stream. You can watch some Mr. Beast or PewDiePie when you're done, just like I'm going to. But you have to go. If you're above the age of smoking, then you hang out because we're going to smoke a little bit of tobacco together. Thank you. I did miss that. That would have been just a shame. Say hi. Say hi to me, Matt. Matt, say hi to him. Khalid, Bron. Anyway, what's going on, guys? I really wasn't expecting a huge showing, but it's good because if any of you don't know how to do this, or you're just curious about how I do it, let's share information with each other today. That's my favorite thing to do. So I'm bummed out that this is basically going to be the last of my Dorado. Luckily, I've already cut a video review on Dorado, so we're all right there. And Dorado's going to have the same cut. It might be a little more moist, and that's only going to be... I just realized how many people may have just gotten triggered by me saying the word moist. Hopefully not in this live, because I use that word all the time. But it is a little bit wetter just because we're gotten to the bottom. There's gravity. Gravity is a thing that exists, and the moisture in this is able to pass around the tobacco, so it sinks to the bottom, which is why you have this moisture pooling at the bottom that you can probably see. And this is going to be a fairly cold bowl, and that's to be expected because it's mostly mint. And this mint, I wouldn't call it a super mint, but it's very strong. Anyway, how we're going to do this is actually really easy. And I'm meant to set up my overhead cam for this, but I feel like most of you will get it. And in the future, I'll be setting up an overhead cam. But that doesn't involve a device that I did not break out and I'm looking at. But it takes some time, and I wanted to get this going on time. If anybody remembers hookah tobacco, which I still make, it's literally chopped like cigarette tobacco. Really? That's wild. Who else is tired of their job and just for Vegas to already be here? Brandon, dude. We're leaving. So we're doing the podcast with a special guest. A lot of you already know, but I'm going to be talking about it once my hookah's going and I can talk and not pack. As soon as that podcast is over, me and the supervisor, as Paul likes to call one significant other, are going to bed, and then we're getting up at dawn, and we're starting the drive from Detroit, Michigan to Las Vegas, Nevada. And it seems like a long drive, but we gave ourselves 3 days, and we're going to be doing all kinds of cool stuff on the road trip. And then we're taking it slow on the road trip back. We're going to be doing some camping and stuff, so it's going to be great. I can't wait to see everyone there. Let's get some pictures. Let's smoke some hookah. Let's make sure that there's no cameras on so that no one talks about what we got up to. Anyway, packing this is super easy. we're gonna start it off with what they call, what Paul Silo calls, Eddie Paul calls a gravity pack, where I'm just gonna let it kind of fall in. And this is how you start most packs with your fingers. Now, if I used a fork, I would add density manually in the beginning. But this should be, right at this point, should be ideal. And now comes the part where I have to step away, because I'd like to touch this bowl, but I wouldn't like to get this bowl super gross. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you guys to look at this hookah bowl. I'm going to rinse my hands off really quick. Now, the undersides of my fingernails have turned a tar black color, but this shouldn't really be an issue. So now what we're going to do is put our headphones, we don't need them on, we're not listening to anything. We're going to take this bowl, and we're basically going to take the tobacco down to under the rim without adding too much density if we can. And I'm going to try to do it in the light so you guys can see it okay. But it's really simple. And if any wants to fall out, the best thing you can do is let it. And the reason I use my hands is because everyone that smokes hookah, I would say 99.5% of those people have hands. And if they don't, they probably are better at packing bowls than me anyway, if they do it with their feet or something. So there's that. But if you do it with your hands, you get a really good idea of how much tobacco to put in there. I use chopsticks. It makes it easier and less messy. You can also use an oyster fork, which makes it a little harder because oyster forks tend to dense tobacco down a little bit too much, but it still works pretty well. So the goal of what we're doing here is not to add so much compaction that the tobacco cannot breathe well, but we're trying to get it compacted enough where it's not going to like char and the heat's not going to move through it super free. And we do want to bring it down beneath the rim because it's going to start to scream at us the second foil touches it. This does not like any foil contact, especially at the beginning of the session. And it also doesn't like to be overheated. I'm going to have 3 jumbo flats on this particular bowl, but if I was going cubes, I'd only go 2. Typically, I go 3. So to give you an idea, I do smoke this with less heat than I smoke other brands. And that may have something to do with the doha that's included in this tobacco. It may have something to do with just the procedure that he follows to make this tobacco. It might be slightly different. You can't know all of their secrets. But this is pretty close, actually, to what we're going to want. Obviously, we're going to do some cleanup, but that's not going to be too bad. What are we talking about in chat? Be there Thursday to Monday. Us too, Matt. We'll see you there. Also going to some I don't know what that means. I recommend anyone download and play my Vegas slots on their phone free stuff. Oh, okay, cool. Got 2 free shows and some free buffet tickets from playing. Nice. What flavor is Oberon? It is an orange soda. Raspberry cream. It's really good. Well, a raspberry cream is Dorado. Keep that in mind. So I'll pick by Alpaca. They did second option. Okay, now I'm completely lost as to what chat's talking about. So I'll let you guys do your thing, and we're going to finish this up. So once we get it to a certain point, it's nice and bouncy. It's not really, there's no juices coming up. The tobacco's still bouncy. It's almost still in a fluffy state. The tobacco's so fine that even with this amount of compaction I've given to it, it's still pretty fluffy. I am going to give it a light tamp with my fingers. And that's just going to be so no leaves are hanging out and poking out. That way if you look at it from a profile, it's not at the rim, it's just below it, which is ideal. Then, should we really not bring a paper towel? We don't need it. We're going to clean off the rim. Keep it nice and clean so when we foil it, we don't have any issues there. I'm going to do it again with other parts of my hand because I don't like when the foil dances and has too much play. But that's basically what my pack method is going to look like. And you can ask Matt in the chat right now if he's still there, what he thinks about that pack method. Because I've heard a few different things, and this is what I have come across as like the way I want to do it. But there's probably a billion ways to do it. And now, the pack mat's really good at protecting my table, but nothing but an oyster fork or chopsticks is going to protect my hands from the mess I've created. So, foil, 1 layer, Reynolds wrap, heavy duty, right over the top. Turn it, start to pull it down, get some drum-tightedness going on this bowl, would be ideal. The one thing I find that most new smokers have the biggest problem with, and they don't even realize that this is the big issue they're having and they can't get good bowls going, is they can't get their foil tight enough to stop it from slacking down into the tobacco, overheating the tobacco, and causing the bowl to not breathe properly. And I wish there was like a really good method to teach someone how to do it quickly, but really just, as I'm sure most of you guys know, repetition is what allows us to do it the way we do. But that's a pretty good drum tight seal. And it might need to be resealed after I poke holes, but as far as holes go, I'm going to use a Provost because Provosts are cheating and they make every session good. I do make a habit of doing foil detoxes and just using foil. I did that over the break for AM Hookah, so I'm allowing myself to use a Provost again. But if you rely on things like the Provost for good sessions, I would definitely recommend going back to foil because it's always good to make sure you're still good at the thing you want to be good at. Get some where there's none. This is going to be a fine hole pattern. It's going to breathe just fine. And now what we're going to do is I'm going to take this pack mat that allowed us to not get our surface dirty. Look at that. Bracken, send me a check. I'll be waiting for it in the mail. I'm going to go grab a hookah and some coals and we can chat. Let's go back to scene 1 and go back to the transition to scene 1. And then we probably don't need you to see that, so I'll get rid of it. I'll be right back. What's up? Oh, this is 6:30. Oh. Hey, now it really. How does it feel to have your obvious joke about my obvious joke go over my head? Where are you at there? You're coming down to the quarter of years. Suicide anywhere near? Just y'all. I'm not saying she's a gold digger, but she's not necessarily broken. There we are. Little stuff for the show. Why do you have something on docket for you? I might do that. My girlfriend's giving me notes on how to do the thumbnail for the Hookah John episode, which we'll talk about in a moment here. What's everyone talking about? Okay, so before I put these headphones on, which I'm going to do, because I like to listen to music, because I have... You guys want to play Learn About Adrian? We can play Learn About Adrian Hunter, if you guys want. It doesn't really matter if you want to. I'm about to give you some inside information on me as a person, whether you want me to or not. I have it's not a disease. It's something that you can, well, I guess it is kind of. It's something you do to yourself. It's like a degenerative thing on your ears called tinnitus, and it's mild. I've been a musician most of my life. And because of that, my ears are in very poor shape. There's always a loud, high-pitched ringing, and it's responsive. It depends on, how good or bad I've been to my ears that day. But it really does help me to have some music in the background, which is why you might see me, like, bobbing my head or something in the middle of some kind of a live stream or something, especially when we're on our podcast. There we go. Hopefully you can hear that. Anyway, so while we're waiting for this to heat up, let's talk about a few things. Hookah John, we're going to have him on for this coming Monday. And the podcast, by the way, the main AM Hookah Podcast, Mondays at 5:30 Well, it's 7:30 Eastern time, which is my time. So that would mean it's 6:30 next to us, which is Central time, and then Mountain time is 5:30, and then if you're in California or that time zone, it's 4:30. So keep that in mind. I'll leave a link to in the description after this video is over. But we're talking to Hookah John about all things Expo. The Expo is coming up not this weekend, but next weekend. So keep all of that in mind. It's going to be a riot. I hope I see all you guys there. We're going to be talking about all the details on Monday. So there's that. And then, where else was I going? I had more things to say about this. Let's make sure the comments aren't telling me anything. Matt did brig the bull system. He was caught, and now he's leaving. Pack looks very good. I like it. From the rim is a good idea. Good idea with it. Okay. Gotta run home. You guys are awesome. Good luck. Talk to you. Very cool. Eclipse. I had a really bad first experience with Eclipse. It was a friend of mine that packed it for me, and I smoked it, and it was bad. There was the flavor was very dimmed. It reminded me of a bad batch of Ugly, where there was no clouds. By the time you got flavor out of it, you were scorching it. I came into this with dread and fear, and the first few bowls I packed with it were bad, and it's because this stuff does want to be packed a certain way if it's going to behave correctly. But with the way I packed it here, it should smoke very well, and this particular mix should be a light hint of raspberry cream and a heavy mint, because the mint is so much stronger. Hookah Shisha seems to only have 11 flavors. I wonder what flavors they do have. One of the flavors I'm smoking today, called Dorado, is being released at the Expo. So you'll be able to pick it up there. And then, one other thing I got to talk about before I get into the flavor and stuff. Two other things, technically. The big thank you to Prestige Coconut Coals. I am using their Jumbo Flats in my Provost today to heat this bowl, and they are a proud sponsor of the AM Hookah Podcast. Although this isn't the podcast, they are so good to us. We absolutely think it's fine to just do quick plugs for people who want to help out like that to such a small project. And then the other thing is, this isn't really, I'm not being paid to say this, but if you enjoy Nirvana Super Shisha, Doha in general, Eclipse, or Othmani, Basim is having a sale on his website right now, and I'll leave a link to that after this is over as well. But it's medwa.com, and it's buy one get one free. So if there's any flavors you're interested in trying, check it out. And yeah, Ron, that is why it wasn't there. You'll be able to get it soon. So definitely be on the lookout, because if you're coming to the Expo, or if not, I would try to get a hold of this ASAP, because their raspberry cream, I have a review coming on it pretty soon. It's going to be on this channel, because anything we review with people we talk to on this channel is going to be dropped here as opposed to my other channel, Pipe Dream Hookah, because I have so many reviews to do. I need 2 channels to release them all. That said, let's try this flavor. It's been a couple of minutes. Probably not quite long enough since the Provost lid is off, but we'll see. More of that raspberry cream is coming through than I thought it would, and I'm super excited, because this is the last of it, and I do want to have it. So let's see here. Yeah, that's about what I thought. Let's definitely... Little quick tutorial. What I've done with the Provost here is I've set one half of it on a coal, and the other half is kind of a... Can you see that? How it's leaning on the... There's that little gap in the Provost is actually kind of wedging, sitting like you would sit on a horse, or on the Provost itself. Straddling, I think, is the best word for that. So that's how I like to increase the heat just a little bit without overcooking it. Yeah, you want that Dorado? So Dorado was one of the first flavors I tried from the care package that Basim sent us over at the AM Hookah Podcast. Because a lot of the people we have on would like it if we tried the product that we had on hand before actually, that's loud, before having them on the podcast itself, because then we're going to look like idiots if we haven't tried it. Now, I have tried some Super Shisha and stuff, but he was nice enough to send out a package so we could be well informed. And I packed the Dorado first thing, because I was like, raspberry cream? Everyone screws up raspberry flavors. Every time the raspberry flavors are screwed up. I don't know what the problem is, but let's see if Basim can make a good raspberry. And he makes what I think is the best raspberry on the market. Maybe the only real competition would be raspberry from Trifecta Dark, but even then, it's not nearly as creamy, so keep that in mind. When you get to the Expo, let's meet up. Brandon, let's just meet up at the the Nirvana booth, the Nirvana tent, if you saw the podcast, is what he's setting up. And we'll just smoke some together, and we can fucking literally just bitch about how good it is or how bad it is, depending on whether the bowl is packed correctly or not. If Basim's packing bowls, it's going to be good, I bet, though. So the big thing that separates this tobacco in the beginning of the session is that the flavor comes through pretty strong off the get-go. And even before the clouds even really start to produce themselves, the flavor is outstanding. I'm not going to really review this mix because this is like mostly mint, which is something to keep in mind. But I thought the mint would overpower the mix itself. And what I'm getting here, maybe a little bit of a mini AM review. On the inhale, the mint that they use for this tobacco is like a strong, what I want to say is a natural mint, but it's very strong. I don't think there's menthol in it, but there could be. That's how strong it is. And then that's really kind of it. It's like a single noted mint from what I can tell. And if there's any more complex flavors in there, usually when a flavor is as cold as this one, it's really difficult to pick out the individual flavors. That's why mint flavors tend to pair very well with simple single note fruits or fruit cocktail mixes, stuff like that. But the raspberry cream is popping up in this mix almost just as strong as the mint. And the raspberry is like this natural, semi-tart, semi-sweet raspberry that doesn't taste too candied. And the cream is a feeling you get on the exhale, but it's also almost a lightly sweetened cream flavor on the inhale. So if you're looking at Andromeda or Dorado, I would definitely check that out. If no one's seen the packaging, and it's on the thumbnail, and this is dirty, but this is what you're looking at. It's really nice. I hate fucking bags. They're super annoying. I wish people would stop putting their tobacco in bags, but they do us the courtesy of including an internal. Why am I showing you the inside of this when I could just show you the internal bag, which allows you to easily get all the tobacco out, put it into a separate container if you want to. Because when you, the way Azure does it, Azure is a great tobacco with an awful packaging. What Azure does is they don't put an interior bag. They just put the tobacco in the bag, Ziploc it. When it comes time to get the tobacco out of the 1,006 seconds. Matt, what did you do? When it comes time to get the tobacco out of the bag, that little zip lock thing on the top, it makes it kind of hard. Then the tobacco gets stuck in the Ziploc, and then it won't close correctly, and it's a fucking headache. So I'm not a big fan of that. But when they do, I tend to be more forgiving when something like this is included, an interior bag. Streamlabs knows that Hookah John's going to be on this Monday. Yeah, Hookah John's going to be on this Monday, you guys, which is kind of a big deal. We've interviewed Hookah John once, and by we, I mean I have interviewed Hookah John once for this channel, and it was super stressed because it's Hookah John. It's the biggest name in hookah in the States. But, we definitely bribed and coaxed him. There was no bribery or coaxing. He wanted to spread the word about the expo as much as he could, and we wanted to be a part of that. But he's coming on, and he's going to be hopefully super transparent. I'm sure there's things he can't say about the expo that Matt and I are going to make sure to try to squeeze out of him and trick him into saying. So John, if someone puts this video on your desk, be prepared. Ron, I like the way Trifecta packages. Dump the bag into the container. Yeah, that's exactly the way people should be packaging tobacco, in my opinion. I don't even mind a mess when transferring the tobacco. What I hate is, for instance, a lot of people might wonder why I hate Azure's packaging so much when I don't criticize Tangier's for their packaging. And that's because Tangier's is transparent. They're very transparent about what they're doing. They're giving you a package that is not meant to contain the tobacco at all. It's advertised that you should be using some type of a Chinese takeout container or some type of a Tupperware, and or mason jar, whatever you're into. And the way they package it is good for mailing things out, USPS and stuff, which is great for shipping. And I could see how maybe a package like the ones we're using here today for Nirvana Eclipse could be that way, but then Azure just leaves it in there, so it's not as easy to transport from the package into a Ziploc bag, especially considering it's obviously meant to be contained in the package when you're thinking about Azure. So that's why I don't give Tangiers the same level of grief, because they are like, here's this tobacco. This is how you're supposed to package it. Don't use this. Is it expensive? Yes. Is it a pain in the ass? Absolutely. Is it my favorite brand of tobacco to date? Yes. Brandon, I feel like stirring a new batch of Trifecta when dumped into the container is difficult because it's too full, but I love their packaging. I'm on the same exact train. It's like that with Alfaker sometimes too. What to do, boys? 7 days, and I see that pretty face that we'll be packing all of Hookah University bowls. Hold on, Chris Delgado. I'm going to be packing all of Jeremy's bowls, not all of Hookah University's bowls. I don't know what the fuck you were told, but I'm not packing everyone in that frat house's bowls. That would be a full-time job that you couldn't pay me enough for. There it is. I was waiting for it to kick in because there's an attribute to basically all of their Nirvana brand of tobacco. This excludes off Mali because it doesn't contain Doha. But there's a hit to the Doha, and I'm going to try to describe it as I smoke it. It's not a burning sensation. It's a full sensation. I'm sure a lot of you smoke dark leaf tobaccos or unwashed tobaccos like Tangiers, and you've probably noticed that after you've smoked Tangiers, if it's something you enjoy, when you go back to something like Alfaker, you might be missing something, or Starbuzz, or any of those nice blonde Virginia flue-cured tobaccos that have been heavily washed. It's just flavor. There's no real feel to it, but it's probably also has something to do with this being a burley tobacco. That's also very important, but the Doha, I think, is influencing how this behaves as well. When you hit this, it feels like you're filling up. Like there's a feeling in your throat, in your lungs. It's a full feeling, and it's very satisfying if you're a daily smoker, like I am, and I'm sure a lot of you are. And it is absurdly good. If you're not into something like a strong tobacco, you're going to hate this. But the feeling is it's not a burn at the back of your throat. You can cook this to get it to burn, and I do enjoy that sometimes. But I'm not doing that here. It's not a burn. It's a feeling of fullness and a sensation, which I think is very important when smoking. If you're a daily smoker and you're looking for something extra, I'll get on to the buzz in about 5 minutes because that's when it usually kicks in for me. I heard you're getting paid in PP touches. That is the case, by Jeremy. And I guess if anyone else wants to throw that in as a payment, I could maybe do a couple more people. But you know how many people are going to be at that house, Chris? Because it's so many people. The party itself is going to have I think over 150. And the people who are staying there is a fuckload, 30 something. It's going to be too much. The clouds are great. They're going to get even better as the session goes. Chasm, loved that interview with Basim. Yeah. Some people we have on the podcast, I think every guest we have has something really good to offer, and we're always trying to peel back a little bit and look into different brands and their owners and what they're doing differently and their thoughts on stuff. But Basim from Nirvana, David from Hookah Parties are two of the people that gave outstanding interviews, and I really enjoyed the one with Basim. He was great. He was transparent. He answered all of our questions, and it was just the giveaways. We weren't going to ask him about a giveaway because we usually try to get something for our watchers who take the time to watch us, and I know that most of you watch this because you find either some entertainment value to it or some educational value, or you just hearing people ramble on about a hobby that you enjoy as much as we do, which is great. But, you take the time, and it makes it worth it for us to have people to talk to and hang out with. So when we can set up a giveaway, we try to, especially with people who, own a company and can afford to do it. But we weren't going to ask him about it because he did that huge giveaway. He helped with that giant giveaway at the end of season, whatever last season was. I'm now starting to buzz a little bit. Anyway, at the end of last season. And this season, we weren't expecting him to add more, and he just gave away, times 5, so 3x5, so 15 containers plus 5 Doha kits, which is I'll give you a PP touch and a blunt. Alright, yeah, maybe. We'll talk. Behind closed doors. The buzz from this stuff is almost debilitating if you smoke hot like I do. It kind of puts you back in your chair, and it's a very relaxing buzz. It's not spinny like a lot of buzzes can be. But make sure you eat before you smoke this stuff if you're going to smoke it at full heat. Because it is strong. It's very, very strong. Mohammed Faris, 4th. What's it mean? Is this the 4th season? Are we in season 4? Yeah, we are in season 4. I basically know what season we're in as he goes to literally check because it's just been whack recently. Wow. Season 4. It's kind of weird to think about because Matt and I started this podcast a while back. Oh, come on, man. We can work something out. I mean, we will be in Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Except for a lot of us are going to have full camera setups. So what stays in Vegas will almost certainly be broadcasted to the rest of the world. Anyway, TLDR. Here's the long, short of it. Pack method, you don't want it to be too dense. Nothing like Tangiers. Probably something closer to Trifecta. You want it to be like almost normal packed, a pretty fair amount of compaction, but you still want air gaps. And this tobacco is finely cut enough where if you don't use your hands to manipulate it, use something like a foil poker or a toothpick, you'll be alright. You want it just beneath the rim so there's no foil contact. I recommend a Provost if you have one. If you're going to use coals, just go easy with the heat at first because you don't want to scorch the stuff. So let's say for example I was using these 3 Prestige Jumbo Flats on top of this bowl. I would have one of them Stonehenge and have them pretty well off the foil, like halfway off, and I'd slowly creep them in just to get the session going nice and slow. And then performance, the flavor is going to be great. The flavor is going to vary, so I'm not going to tell you what the flavors are because it doesn't matter. We're talking about the Eclipse line in general. Flavor strength is very, very high. Buzz exists if you're susceptible to a buzz. Some people are just immune to it. And there's going to be a major lung and throat hit to this stuff when you get it burning at the proper temperature. The flavor I'm smoking is Andromeda. There's noise coming from the other room. Andromeda and Dorado, which is a mint and cream and raspberry. Anywho. That's going to do it for this episode of Technical Difficulties. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, happy smoking. I just edited. What did they say? What does that mean? Oh, so your RAM's just bone?
Which is not a big deal. And I'm not particularly pleased with the outcome, but it's not. I'm actually pretty happy it's only a $60 fix instead of.
You can still hear me. Just to answer a few questions at the end of this. Are we still streaming? We are. Alpha Comma's Darkline, I'm not actually sure what the exact release date is. Provost 2 is out. It is. I haven't tried it, but you're going to hear from me what I think of it. And sounds fancy. You're fancy.